In northeast Guatemala lies the region of Petén. Bordered by Mexico and Belize, Petén is home to some of the most pristine rainforests left in Central America. Jaguars and howler monkeys prowl its jungles, and Mayan ruins dot the landscape alongside cattle ranches and narco airstrips. To slow deforestation in Petén, starting in 1996, the Guatemalan government decided to try a controversial experiment in conservation. To protect the forest, some officials proposed, why not let local communities manage some parts of it? The government cut a deal with those communities. If they met conservation targets and paid taxes, they'd be able to extract logs and other products from the forest, pocketing most of the profits. Not everyone was a fan of the idea. Where did logging fit into conservation? Mongabay visited Petén to get an answer to that question. Our first stop was a town called Uaxactun, which got its community forest concession in the year 2000. Erwin Moss is a community member who helps manage Uaxactun's timber operations. We sat down to talk to him about community forestry.
Que Uaxactun por cultura, por tradición, ya venía trabajando estos recursos del bosque. Eso hizo, cuando se nos da la concesión, nada más hacerlo más técnico. Pero realmente Uaxactun, como comunidad, se dio cuenta que el bosque le estaba dando la oportunidad que otras comunidades no lo han tenido.
In exchange for their concession, communities like Uaxactun agree to harvest timber sustainably under tight supervision. They work in 5-year harvesting plans, submitting annual reports to the Guatemalan government, which monitors deforestation rates inside the concessions. The communities patrol the boundaries of their forest for intruders and pay for squads of firefighters. Researchers say that for the most part, the model has been a huge success. Deforestation rates inside concessions like Uaxactun's are among the lowest in Petén, and they have thriving populations of wildlife.
And they're suffering ridiculously low rates of impact from fire, especially compared to some of the most threatened parks and other parts of the reserve where people are not vested in the management. And finally, and especially for us as WCS, we've looked at the abundance of wildlife in some of these areas. Species like jaguars and tapirs and white-lipped peccary, species that are disappearing from vast sections of Mesoamerica, and they're incredibly abundant in these community forests.
La organización tiene un compromiso. Por un árbol que se desaprovechado, se tiene que implantar 100 árboles alrededor y reforestar el área impactada.
Timber is the main source of revenue in most of the concessions, but it's not the only one. In Uaxactun, the community also harvests chate, which gets exported to the US where it's used for high-end flower arrangements. Women in Uaxactun play a major role in the chate business, but they say that at first they had to fight for it.
Al principio, los hombres, muchos hombres no creían en nosotros las mujeres. No nos querían dar ese espacio, no nos querían dar esas oportunidades. Tuvimos que ganarnos ese espacio para poder tener esas oportunidades. Nosotros hemos aprendido a convivir con el bosque y el bosque con nosotros.
But the successes of community forestry haven't come easily. The forests in Petén are valuable, and powerful actors in the region have had their eye on them for years. To keep control of those forests, the communities have had to be politically savvy and respond to threats from the outside as well as the inside. In Carmelita, Uaxactun's neighbor, some say the biggest threat hasn't come from Petén's cattle ranchers or narco traffickers. It's come from a US archaeologist named Richard Hansen, who wants to turn a set of Mayan ruins in the northern part of Carmelita's concession into a global tourist attraction.
Well, if it's not protected, we'll lose this quickly.
How quickly?
2 to 3 years.
Really?
Yeah. They'll plant corn all through here. They'll loot the buildings while they're doing it. We have the proof of all of this. There's nothing that's I'm pulling off the top of my head.
But not everyone who lives in Carmelita is a member of the cooperative that manages the concession. Antonio Centeno is one of those on the outside, and he's fiercely critical.
La verdad es no están beneficiando a todos en la comunidad. O sea, y es lo que ellos hacen ver a todos los que vienen, que sí están beneficiando a todos, pero no es cierto.
Centeno told us he's angry over fees he has to pay the cooperative to run his tourism business.
Yo les pago a ellos 312 quetzales por cada turista que ingreso al área, solo por caminar en unos senderos que nuestros propios abuelos abrieron hacia la ruta del Mirador cuando eran chicleros.
These kinds of internal conflicts have been dangerous in the past. The first leader of Carmelita's cooperative was shot and killed in a dispute over timber operations, and 2 other concessions were canceled after its leaders illegally sold land to cattle ranchers said to be linked to drug trafficking.
There are always external interests out there that are looking at these areas and that have interest as well. So if you don't organize effectively internally, you could actually lose control.
Turismo más que todo nos ha venido a dividir, porque el señor Richard Hanser pues apoya mucho a otro grupo organizado aquí. Como cooperativa se invierte bastante dinero año con año en lo que es las comisiones de control y vigilancia, las comisiones de incendio para que esto se mantenga.
Leaders of the cooperative say that 85% of the families in Carmelita are members and that they reinvest a chunk of their profits into scholarships, health services, and education for the community. Without their hard work, they say, the community wouldn't have any control over the forest at all.
Han muerto líderes de la comunidad por pelear el proceso, porque nosotros, como dependemos de ellos, también tenemos la responsabilidad de seguir manteniendo el bosque.
In December 2019, the Guatemalan government gave Carmelita and its cooperative a huge victory, extending its concession agreement for another 25 years. The decision sent a clear message. Guatemalan policymakers think their big experiment is working. That's good news for Uaxactun, whose own concession comes up for renewal in 2025.
El éxito es que la gente sabe que vive del recurso, entonces por eso lo protege. Y convive con el bosque, convive con la fauna y con la flora. 100% somos conservacionistas.